marketer affiliate in CIMA in UK, fellow Chartered Institute of Marketing UK, Australia, Institute Management, and an MBA from the University of Leicestershire, UK. Anton has been a veteran in the business, in the industry of the supply of the paper industry and things, as well as he has been a strong Rotarian. And I would like to welcome Anton to take over the procedures and to go ahead with it.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Well, welcome to the session on Heritance of Entrepreneurship. That particular video shows that we have 4 gentlemen who is going to represent and talk about their story, who has taken the bold decision in their life to go through that process of taking over the business, challenging businesses at different times, which you all will hear their stories in the round 1. So they have been raised up and they have been given that guidance. That's why they are here. So the loved ones have really cared for them and they have brought them to take over the businesses so that they could create that real sense of economic value proposition to all of us. So thank you for accepting the invitation and talking to us for next 2 hours. Sorry for the late startup, as Dylan mentioned, for some technical issues. So we had 3 rounds. That is, round 1 is we're going to talk about their journey thus far and what made them to make that decision among the many choices. Ability to say no for many to achieve one, which is one of the key ingredients of an entrepreneur. So the inheriting that fact of heritance of an entrepreneur, the first quality is that they want to become a successful entrepreneur. The moment they mention or they thought that process would give you 50% benchmark for you to move on from there. Now, these 4 gentlemen, we have all 4 have made that decision and they are gone through that space. And let here in the round 1, their process of their journey. Second round, we would go through the strategic intent and the strategic aspects and the challenges on the entrepreneurial journey, both the micro and the macro perspective. And the last round, we would obviously talk about the succession, leveraging the financial aspects, a form of, how to reach the global sense and creating the different form of organizational structure, which is more sustainable to create that economic proposition that we would envisage. To begin, we have Mr. Murtaza Akbar Ali. As he would, all 4 will have their self-introduction in the round 1. We thought that I will give a very brief introduction initially. He has over 2 decades of expertise on flexible packaging industry. He holds a Master of Engineering in Materials Management and specifically on the engineering space from the Imperial College London. Yet basically what he told me was that he took over the business from a greenfield space, although the family has been conventionally into many businesses, successful businesses, but he took over this business as a greenfield. And then he has brought up to an extent today in the flexible and the growing field of printing. Is one of the benchmarking industry to compete anywhere in the world when I spoke to him. So that's Murtaza Akbar Ali. Then we have slightly a different sort of a content, which is Eshan de Silva, right? Who owns 2 of the best German brands, right? When you say own, they don't own it, but they represent them for Sri Lanka. One is Heidelberg, which is the best printing machine all time, both conventional and digital. Then he also have the Bry one, the best German car, the Audi, right? Now, having these 2 agencies in their portfolio is a challenging task, right? I mean, the best from Germany. Now, Eshan he had his formal education in the United States from the Worcester, Massachusetts. He has a BA in organizational communication, And of course, he launched his initial career in the United States with Virtusa, the technology company listed in NASDAQ. Thereafter, he joined his family business in 2018 as executive director of alliance agencies and the affiliated companies. So that is Eshan with communication and technology background. We would hear from him how to drive the international procurement, global supply chain management, and creating that company for the print and publishing sector. The third we have is Tisha Vikramasinghe, third generation of businesses, which has the director of Varna Packaging, Sitara Limited, as well as
Scoring high as Waka Doyle overcooked it, but it's knocked on by Miller. Can't see it out.
Blue Diamond Jewelry
United.
Worldwide PLC. He had his double major in Bachelor of Business Administration from Edith Cowan University, Perth, Western Australia. He has completed his industry-related courses and marketing and R&D, and being a very passionate entrepreneur who is taking on the business, which is Varna and Sitara, and of course, the director of Blue Diamonds. And the third panelist is Adnan Abdul Hussain, a young lad who is the director of the company, right, which is a BOI stated company, and he has won many the company is more into industrial packaging compared to the other two, more on the flexible gravure and offset, etc. And he has won several presidential awards, including the National Green World Star Award, and the only supplier, corrugated box supplier, what invested 1 million megawatt solar power project, making the net zero emission company in Sri Lanka. So that's one of the largest industrial packaging company, headed, who is the director, which is Adnan, who took over the business 6 years ago. Adnan is graduated from Franklin Marshall College in the United States with a Bachelor of Arts and degree in economics. Right, its areas include human resources, industrial waste control, and innovation. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 panelists, 2 of them, one with an engineering background.
Promise to cooperate.
The other is with the communication and technology, and of course, the third one is economics, and of course, marketing. So we got a very good mix where he narrated and who is on the heritance of the journey. My first question, or I would like to sort of pose on Murtaza Akbar Ali. That is, how is your journey thus far, Murtaza? Having been in business, made the right choice, I believe, and how is your journey? And what are your core competency of the business to sustain and grow globally?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Dylan and Anton, for having us and inviting me to participate and speak this morning. And also a warm welcome to the other panelists, Tisha, Adnan, and Heshan. And also a very good morning to all our viewers. To briefly just give you a very basic introduction of myself. I've just turned 50 a few months ago. I joined the business in 1995 at the age of, I think I was just turned 22. Having graduated from university studying engineering, of course, having no experience in the print packaging space at all. So when I returned back to Sri Lanka after studying, my father and also my late father and my elder brother had started a very basic operation in Lanka Plastics. I mean, at that time, it was just a very simple business, a very small business, which literally, if you walked into, was kind of a shell where we had basically simply one simple, very basic printer, one extruder, and a simple bag cutter. And the business was at that time was just catering supplying the most basic poly bags catering towards the garment industry. So I joined this, and having no experience, it was a tremendous journey trying to just learn the technology and understand the concepts of the packaging business. One of the philosophies that I employed from day one was having this concept of empathy, which I believe is absolutely crucial in developing one's progress and creating growth. Now, having empathy is also understanding what your clients need, listening to what your clients need, seeing what they're doing, and at the same time having empathy to the people you work with. You actually understand what they are looking for. And what I very soon realized, I would say probably within a year of working in this business, is there was a huge vacuum in Sri Lanka. I mean, most of the clients that we were servicing were importing their products for various reasons. It was not only because it could not be supplied from Sri Lanka, but there were so many factors which were creating barriers to them. So, and this led me to think that, what is the barrier? What is the bridge we need to create to change this culture? So my whole focus on this whole journey of growth has been basically to inculcate a mindset within my management team from day one, where we wanted to innovate. To do this, we had to invest. And some of these investments, I think most of you in the industry are aware, are reasonably significant in terms of capital requirements. So it needed us to make this bold step. And to do this, we also needed to have the technical knowledge of how to service, how to operate, how to get the best out of the equipment that we want, so we can bridge the gap and basically change the culture in which most of the enterprises in Sri Lanka were reluctant to work with many suppliers within the industry, and try and bridge the gap where they were able to reduce, I wouldn't say stop, but reduce significantly what they were buying from outside and service them from within Sri Lanka. Now, this has been a journey of almost 28 years in the business. It's been with tremendous challenges, obstacles, and I think Anton's welcome video with Westlife, "You Raised Me Up," it, I think, signifies the emotion that it's probably taken, I think, not only myself, but many of you in the industry. I think today I'm proud to say that after almost 30 years, we're a significant player in the industry. And I have been able to demonstrate and inculcate a culture of growth, having invested in state-of-the-art innovative technologies and learning to use them with the most modern equipment, with the most modern raw materials, having developed, I would say, an amazing team of people around me to service, to get to know how to operate this stuff, these equipments technically, so we can deliver the top-end quality which the global market is caters for, has been a wonderful journey, and I hope we can continue this. So I leave it over to you, to Anton, to take this further, and maybe at the next stage, perhaps we can talk about a little bit more detail of the technical aspect of what we were doing.
Thank you, Muttasa, for that inspirational story. And of course, as always, a challenging story. Thanks a lot again. A slight variation from manufacturing to international training and representation. Hey, Sean, we would like to hear your story. What are your sort of thoughts, and how do you feel about it? Having been in business for a couple of years, with your expertise in the technology and communications, etc. Now you're taking over the reins of your family Heritance. Can we hear from you?
Yes, thank you, Anton, and a warm welcome and good morning to all participants. As Anton introduced himself, my name is Seshan De Silva. Currently, I am Executive Vice President at Alliance Agencies Limited. Prior to joining Alliance, I spent approximately 12 years in the United States, where I got my bachelor's degree from Assumption University, and then went on to work at a NASDAQ traded IT company. And this is where most of my technology knowledge and background came from. And I believe this is one strong attribute that I have to bringing into Alliance agencies. Since I joined the company about 5 years ago, one of our main goals was to make sure we go into the digital space, to bring new technologies, to bring new innovations into the market. Not only as a supplier, but also for our partners and to help Sri Lanka move forward. I believe technology is one of the driving forces when it comes to improving efficiencies, limiting human interference, helping empower people. We bring in new technologies to do that. Since I joined the company, we have moved into the digital space. Our latest addition, I think Anton mentioned, we had Heidelberg, which we've had since our inception in 1959. And recently, about 6 years ago, we took on Audi. But our latest addition to our portfolio in the digital space is Xerox. Xerox is the market leader in digital printing. They have new technologies where you can print silver, white, gold, even neon colors. So this has given us a big advantage over the competition. And this is the value proposition that Xerox brings over the competition. In the future, I look forward to talking to you guys more about what we bring and what we offer. I think I'll leave it over to Anton to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Heshan. I think everybody witnessed the fact that you are having a happy journey as an entrepreneur, as a director, holding that accountability. So thank you very much. We would like to now move on to Tisha Vikramasinghe, who is also a printer by virtue of the fact that he said it's a third generation business. And we would like to hear from Tisha about your journey thus far and how it has gone and what are your motivating factors.
Thank you, Anton. Hope everyone can hear me. Very good morning to everyone, and to Mr. Dylan as well for the introduction, and to the fellow panelists, Mr. Murtaza, Adnan, and Heshan as well, and to everybody who has joined on this Saturday morning. Yes, Anton, just a brief introduction, I guess, about Varna and where the entrepreneurial mindset had begun, and it was not with me. Like as you mentioned as well, I'm here as the third generation. But I guess all credit should go to my grandfather as well, CEL Vikramasinghe, who started the flexible packaging industry in Sri Lanka, as Varna has been the first flexible packaging company since 1961. Started off with, again, like Mr. Murtaza said, in basic packaging as well here in terms of just 1 and 2 color printing for the toffee confectionery industry at that time. And even a little bit further, if you go a little bit into history as well. So even, I guess, the printing runs in the family side, starting with great-grandfather, D.R. Vijayawardena, with Lake House printers, as everyone knows, and then diversifying where my grandfather worked as well. So where that's how he got the idea of the printing industry, the knowledge. And after Lake House only, he ventured out to start Varna Limited for flexible packaging. And then after a few years, being again entrepreneurial and going into backward integration, starting to explore and develop the printing inks that was required for printing, not only the rotogravure, flexo, and offset, which was even during that time in the 1960s, was still ahead than flexible packaging. And so far, the company now is 62 years, and the growth, the innovation that has been there throughout those years Definitely credit to my grandfather and my father, who has been continuously developing with the new machinery, technology throughout the years. And it has not been easy as well, because when you're growing from one location, step by step over a period of 60 years, big challenges with infrastructure. And then again, like Mr. Murtaza said, the capital investment in terms of the printing industry is large. So getting together during that time with private the friends actually, and investing in the company, and still we've had in the same shareholdership for the last so many years, minority, and bringing in new partners to grow. So our journey has been definitely an educational one, and in myself as well. Even during school study, chemistry and physics definitely has helped out in both understanding better the printing and the ink technologies. Moving on to, like I said, my management and marketing double major has helped me to understand how to market our products, plus understand the different knowledge. Even since 21, joining the company as an intern, learning the basics, and even since 21 years old, completing some of the printing and printing ink courses in the USA at Wisconsin Fox Valley Technical College, some programs organized by the international bodies. And my father also actually studied professionally printing in the UK as well. So there has been a formal education that had been given to us in terms of printing, and showing the need for the family business to continue. So far we've come to this level, and now 62 years later. And what I bring into the table is as well the innovation. That's my forte, and where my motivation and passion lies. Developing sustainable products, trying to understanding the mindset of our customers and what they need, and for how we can help, and going beyond just the printing component that we do, trying to give them the entire like a holistic approach solution into their packaging needs, plus understanding our people as well, which is important. And I'm grateful for the like 40% of our staff have been with us for more than 25 years. So keeping them, all the stakeholders happy, and understanding all of them and moving forward has been a strength to us, and we continue to do that, and also try to be the market leaders in packaging as well, and in terms of innovation. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tisha, for that extensive sort of thoughts for sharing to the audience. And of course, your understanding on the marketing forte would bring about the 3 Ps, right? Print, publishing, and packaging as an integrated process to the world market. So there's a lot of hope in that space. Having listened to Tisha, now we have the panelist, the Adnan Abdul Hussain, who is somewhat different to the others. Others do have the branding perception, both industrial and business to consumer, but Adnan has business to business, more industrialized packaging expertise. We would like to hear from Adnan, how is your journey so far, and what are your contribution and accountability to the industry as a whole?
Hello, Anton. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to SLAP for organizing this discussion and inviting me to speak. I want to start at the beginning of Star Packaging's journey in 2002. Before my father founded this company, he had come with 15 years of experience, starting his journey at 18 years old. His motivation was to support his family and create innovative ways of packaging within his family's company. When he joined the industry, he had to convince certain exporters to convert from wooden boxes to corrugated cartons. He went from door to door, showing customers that corrugated cartons are in fact lighter, equally strong, and can be used as a marketing tool through printing and design. They are cost efficient to make exporters be more competitive, in international markets as well. Corrugated cartons are environmentally sustainable, and at that time, it was the future of the packaging industry. Core values were persistence, hard work, and innovation, which instilled in me as well. I joined the industry in 2006 after graduating from college in the United States. I started as a business executive working on the factory floor, understanding product, machinery, and the people. During this time, I was able to learn sustainability, efficiency, and marketability of the product, the importance of innovation, technology, and continuous improvement of the machines, and how to be empathetic and understand the hard work and importance of the people in creating a quality and custom product. So that's a briefing of what I have experienced so far, and it started with my father's journey. And we can go more into detail about the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Adnan, and thank you for that sort of extensive discussion and your thoughts on the journey of Star Packaging and your sort of passionate approach to the business. Now, all four of them, I hear that there is a commonality in what they discuss. A few did mention about empathy, and the other, all four of them spoke about innovation. So let's move on to the next round on the strategic space. Prior to that, can we hear from Dylan Silva, past president of SLAP?
Thank you, Anton, and it's a pleasure and honor to really meet each and every entrepreneur who has been fantastic in what they have done in the space of their companies and what they are doing in the future. As SLAP, which we are seeing is that we have to take our work outside the country, and we have to achieve a goal of increasing our market and increasing and growing our companies. Having said that, we have to pursue in seeing the international market. So we have to, as the Printers Association, we are in the process of catering around giving great awareness to enhance the capacity to give global competitiveness, talent development, technology, and also the specialization within the PPP cluster. So that is what the association is wanting to do, and we see amazing products which are coming out of presently the four of you who have given us amazing insights, as well as the technology changes which we expect to compete in the global market and to enhance it, and to see on the basis of sustainability, on innovation and competitiveness. So this is our objective of to educate the printers, take them forward in these areas, and to be a global, to meet the global standards, and to go forward in our marketing abilities to develop the industry. So we presently contribute 20% of the GDP, and that is a significant amount, as well as on, and especially with the export industry, how we contribute on value additions. So look at those areas, and as what Anton will be facilitating, we would take it to a level which we as the printers want to make Sri Lanka exporting hub on packaging. So having said that, thank you for Murtaza, Heshan, Arden, and Tisha for the valuable contribution you have given and what you are seeing to make sure that Sri Lanka is in the map in the PPP cluster. That is our goal, and that is what your goal which you have showing. Thank you for that, and for us to take it forward. Over to you, Brandon.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dylan, for that inspiring thoughts as the past president of SLAP. Before we begin the round two, I thought I'll share this story of cluster-based principles. I keep sharing this now and then. That's in 1970s, when Japanese automobile cluster, right, with Japanese car was not known, when Japanese automobile cluster entered the United States of America, they went in as one cluster, whether it is Toyota, whether it is Suzuki, right? Whether it is Lexus, any of the cars, Japanese cars, right? What they did was they went in as one cluster to one particular zone of the United States, build that capacity, build that supply chain, right? And of course, they penetrate into the market very successfully as a Japanese automobile cluster. So if Sri Lanka wants to create that felt need in the global market space, it's extremely important to create that print, publishing, and packaging cluster. And that's the forte of the Sri Lanka Association of Printers to move forward. Having said that thought, we would like to ask this post-discussion from Murtaza Akbar. Being the innovator and the empathetical approach to your business, from a green field to what you are today, as you're a confident young man who can compete in the global market space in spite of your constraint on supply chain. That's what you are trying to say. You emphasized 3 times during your introduction. Supply chain is the biggest constraint in Sri Lanka. In spite of that, you are so confident. So what is your strategic space to sustain and grow?
Hi, Anton. So regarding, just taking it back a second, you mentioned about Japan and the auto industry and the development of the supply chain. I believe as of, I think 2022, middle part of 2022, actually China has now overtaken Japan in the number of cars manufactured globally. This, for me, goes to show that with a growth mindset, you can really cross bridges and grow. Now, the target of our PPP cluster, as Dylan also mentioned, was to tap more into the export market. And he also mentioned that we contribute about 20% of our GDP. Now, if we can really innovate through technology, what does it do? It basically makes our exporters who are exporting from Sri Lanka more competitive. You're also going to be able to provide them with better quality products, which would meet international standards, which are basically ensuring that our industry will have to cater to what is being manufactured in the developed markets in terms of the packaging. So what is my personal focus? My personal focus so far has been basically to try and understand, using this concept of empathy, to try and understand what really is being used, what is really required by our clients from a global perspective. And what we realized is from a very early stage is that to be competitive, you really need to invest in this technology, which ultimately not only gives you a better product, it improves your efficiency, it makes work.
Recording in progress.
It makes your work easier to manage within your industry and ultimately deliver better products. Now, one of the philosophies I've used from the very beginning was actually from the founder of Intel, Gordon Moore. So it's known as Moore's Law. I'm sure some of you may have heard of it. And so he prescribed basically that in a computer chip, which is made up of transistors, that the number of transistors will double every year. And every time you double a transistor, number of transistors in a chip, you become much more technologically powerful, and you also reduce your cost by approximately 50%. And this has been happening throughout history, I believe since the 1960s. And what does that mean? Basically, it means that you're having technological power, the technological know-how to use this innovation, which ultimately will disrupt the traditional norms of manufacturing and do it in a more modern, novel way, and giving your clients the basically more competitive products, better products, helping them compete better in a global scale. And ultimately, if you take from a GDP's perspective, it's only going to add to the global GDP of our country. One of the examples that I have that what we did was around 2010. We took the bold step of investing in one of a state-of-the-art printing machines in Germany from a brand called Fishka & Kricker. And we invested in a technology which is known as GPS. GPS stands for Graphic Positioning System. And this was from a understanding from what our customers really needed in terms of flexibility, and also from a point of delivery where we could have something a doorstep in a matter of a few days rather than a few weeks, giving them an advantage. What it does is basically, if you take flexographic printing, you have your printing plate which is mounted on a print cylinder. We scan this topography of this print cylinder, of the printing plate, into our cylinder, and that's actually fed into a data chip, into an RFID chip on the cylinder. You put these on our presses, the presses download this information, and once you have this information on the presses computers, the start of the press gives you the first print that comes out of your press is sellable quality. So going a step back, it would have taken us probably 2-3 hours to get a print right without this technology. But today we can do it within a matter of 10 minutes. So just look at the advantage that we can pass on to ultimately the consumer. You're going to be able to give a more competitive product by disrupting the traditional norms of doing printing, and at the same time, you're going to look at your clients are going to be able to sell more, be able to compete more, and ultimately contribute to the global Sri Lanka's GDP, which is, I think it's an amazing solution. So my philosophy has always been to innovate through technology. It makes your products cheaper, in better quality. It takes a lot of understanding to know how to use this technology. That's where you really need to empathize with your staff, with your people, understand and be passionate about really getting to the root, the grassroots level of understanding how the process is operating. And if you're able to do this, and you are bold enough to choose the right technology to invest, I think the growth prospect for our cluster is phenomenal.
Excellent. Well said, Murtaza, at the outset, that the growth mindset. So once you have the growth mindset, you would fall in line with both the macro and the micro drivers, in line with aligning the company, and then of course focus on innovation and disruptive aspects. Being, you become a disruptor in the industry, so that it'll give you that competitive space. Thank you, Murtaza. And now we would slightly shift to Eshan De Silva, who has, as we said, the best names in the world representing and catering to the print, publishing and packaging cluster. What are your strategic initiatives since you joined the company? And how successful are you in that journey from a strategic perspective?
Yes. Thank you, Anton. So how I look at it, and as a company, we look at it, is we always try to stay a step ahead of our customers, to make sure we do the market research, to make sure we look at our customers' problems, and to bring the most innovative, whether it be technologies, consumables, spare parts, to offer to our partners. We do extensive research with our suppliers to make sure that we offer the most innovative and the most cost-effective, and also, which is an important part in our world right now, the most environmentally friendly products. As a packaging and printing, we tend to use a lot of chemicals and things in our manufacturing process, and we try to offer, even with Heidelberg. Heidelberg offers a CO2 certificate, so you can buy the machine, and with the CO2 certificate, and they plant trees to offset the carbon neutral over the lifetime of the production of the machine. We also work with our suppliers and partners to make sure that we offer the best software solutions to our customers. So we offer solutions where you can do from your designing stage to your production stage to your post-press stage, end to end, with the most limited wastage. Wastage is one of the key factors when it comes to our industry. A little wastage here and there could mean the difference between a large cost, especially when you're competing with the global market, with the likes of China, Bangladesh, Vietnam, who are very strong in these areas. We also, one of the key factors that we take into consideration is the training of our staff, training of our technicians, training of our support teams, so that they can provide the most up-to-date ideas and innovations to our partners. So this is some of the ways that we try to help our partners with their issues and support them.
Thank you, Ishan. Very encouraging thoughts and strategic efforts. We have Tisha Vikramasinghe, who would like to share his thoughts, who is practically as a bigger challenge than the other two, I would say, because he is running the third generation business. The expectations are extremely high, rather than someone who had a greenfield project to a third generation business. So what are your strategic efforts, Tisha?
Yeah, it's right, because like I said, even at the beginning, the credit and the main entrepreneurial drive had been from my grandfather as well, and then continued by my father. So at the moment, even since 2015, when I joined full-time at the company, like I said, I've been in and out since I was that time, I think 18 or so, so like totally about now 12 years. But at the beginning, I was learning, like I said, what's happening globally, going overseas for some of the printing and the industrial training while doing my bachelor's as well, and understanding that knowledge. And even as Varna's, one of their strategic goals has been, even from my grandfather's time, like going overseas, bringing that knowledge down, bringing it back to Sri Lanka, and then sharing it with our employees. That has continued even with my father and even with me, because if the strategy should be not one person knowing everything and having that vision, everyone in the company needs to understand it. So since, like I said, in 2015, after coming back, one strategy that I wanted to implement was taking Varna global as well. And to do that, at that point, we had a few, let's say, obstacles to overcome. So one being that to go global, even at that time, one was we had to increase our capacity as well. And like I said, being company, like you said, from a greenfield, and one to that has been going, increasing and developing throughout the years. One aspect that we had was our internal flow of production, because it was going from, one location to the other. So since 2015, managed to plan out one building, which is about 35,000 square feet and 3 floors, and managed to, like you said, taking that idea from the Japanese way of production, Toyota, having workflow, production in one direction rather than, going back and forth, so that you could save time and efficiency even in the material handling. After we developed this building, we managed to now in the last 2 years as well, move in that direction and have the workflow going, the raw materials coming in from one side, and then finally the production happens on one building, and then it's, sent out from that. And the other one is also building capacity, not only in terms of infrastructure and machine capacity, also building the capacity of the people. Because as you know, most of the throughout the years, even the workers and managers, everyone has been used to catering to the Sri Lankan market, Sri Lankan the market where, they are not concerned too much about, wastage, and they're like, okay, we are here, so, we just have to supply them. They are not looking outside at the bigger picture. Because I think, as everyone knows, the market in Sri Lanka it's very constrained. It hasn't been growing as much, and even in the last 3 years, or even currently, there has been a reduction of almost about 25% on average on the consumption of the market as well, due to the economic situation with COVID and after. So one was to create this totally, and plus, I guess most of the other companies also know, who have been mainly catering to Sri Lanka, is the marketing. So the marketing aspect had been nil, actually, because of the brand presence in Sri Lanka. We did not market extensively outside, internally within the Sri Lankan market. So the next step was to build to go global. You have to have your global presence and the branding ready for it. You can't just go. You can't just go with a structure that is not ready for the global clientele. So next step was to building the new website, making it into an international level. And then thereafter, our focus has been again on innovation as well, getting international recognition for our products. And last year, for the first time in South Asia, Sri Lanka actually, we won the Gravio Golden Cylinder Award, which is a global competition organized by the largest Gravio Association of America. So we managed to win that last year as well. And then through other developments, even through in Sri Lanka, so I developed some other packaging on the sustainable side, where I managed to win some growing, taking all of this into consideration, has been our strategy to move forward. But also, even in the local clientele who are also doing in. Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So the idea of having this and also practicing like what we preach is, our strategy has been also to give an innovative product. Some of the innovation that we have come across, or that I have learned, it cannot be catered to the Sri Lankan market because of the price point. Like again, even our customers, the brand owners, food manufacturers are competing against each other, and price has been a really key point. But for the exporters who are catering to the global market with their global perceptions and the global trends, having those innovative products, which might be at a higher price point, still is we try to share all this knowledge. And also, like I said, one strategy is that we know we cannot do everything. Like example, like I mentioned, we have some of the Murtaza has some of the other machines like the Totani, the Japanese bag making machines. So this is one product that we don't do. And even if some customers that even come to us, we're like, we recommend some people who will do it. Because at the end of the day, we also have to think from the brand owners, our customers' perspective as well. And in terms of getting all these brands and products onto the global marketplace. And that's what we strive to do as well with our customers who actually have good products. We want them to promote, we help them and give them the idea, the knowledge of international regulations, certifications, what they need to take their brand and product into the global market. To do that, we need everyone's support. Example, like, we would have the initial packaging, the flexible packaging being the primary one, giving that protection to food or whichever the product. And then you have your offset printers who have to come in and give the outside box in some cases, and then the industrial packaging, like how what Adnan is doing. So it's actually a holistic, even though we operate individually, but for the customer, all these aspects have to come together for them to send their product out. So the strategy also we're trying to do is give that holistic approach. Even if we don't do it, we still give the expertise and give the recommendations, even on the machinery on who they should go with. Sorry for the long explanation, but that's actually been our strategy and changing this culture within our company. And also, I am the secretary of the Flexible Packaging Association. And even for the last 4 years, I'm also working hard to, trying to get everyone together to work towards one goal. So
thank you, Tisha, for that integrated approach and integrated marketing strength. And it also envisaged the fact that you've been in one of the best awards in the global market on the Roto and Gravure. Having listened to Tisha, we have Adnan, who is on the industrial side, packaging side. What are your growth dimension, Adnan? You also have equally a challenge as your Mr. Abdul Hussain, your dad does, he had initiated a great entrepreneurial space, and you are on that same forte. And what are your growth factors to take the business to the next level of the corrugation and the industrial packaging side?
Thanks, Anton. Great question. So to start off answering that question, I want to emphasize on what Murtaza also spoke about, which is the importance of a sustainable and efficient supply chain, especially during the challenges which our country faced with COVID and with the Forex crisis, for example. There were many challenges in imports. So us as suppliers to the export industry, we rely on importing over up to 70% of our materials, right? And during that Forex crisis, we found it very difficult for those imports, for financing those imports. So to go more into that area, I would like to also say that Star Packaging did expand its horizons to the Indian market in 2008, where we did establish a corrugated carton packaging company. And the first 5 years were extremely challenging. However, we established the right team, and the success and opportunities taken did establish the company as a major player in the packaging industry in the Indian market. So we did learn a lot by going to India, and with our presence in India, we also had close relationships with suppliers there. As you know, a lot of raw materials coming to Sri Lanka do come from India. So through those relationships, we were able to continuously get our supplies, thereby providing uninterrupted packaging for the export industry and for the rest of our local customers as well. And also, Anton, going on being more competitive for the international market, I have to say that the government did introduce the TEEP scheme, where we have the ability to import duty-free materials for the export market. So by getting to import materials under TEEP, we can offer more competitive prices for our export customers, thereby then being more competitive internationally. So in terms of our strategy, we set up a R&D facility along with the state-of-the-art quality lab to give our customers exactly what they need, and also to make sure that a corrugated carton or form of packaging isn't either over-engineered or under-engineered. And that is very important when it comes to pricing and quality as well. So we were able to use this R&D and our quality lab to make sure that our price point was acceptable by our customers, and this ultimately did help our country's exporters be more competitive globally. So that's a bit of the strategy that we are undertaking right now. Corrugated carton packaging is 100% recyclable, as you know, and it is contributing to a circular economy as well, which is very important. We are the only corrugated company, as you mentioned, to invest in a 1 megawatt solar power panel, roof solar, which does make us as a net zero emission company. And a lot of international brands do ask their suppliers what the sustainability side of it, because we do see a shift towards eco-friendly and sustainable consumption and production patterns globally. So that is another strategy that we are looking at the moment as well. As a country, we should make more of an effort in participating in this change, and that's about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Adnan. Thank you, Adnan, for your strategic and competitive space. And having listened to Adnan and all three other panelists, I found that cost competency is one of the key challenges. And how do they innovate? How do they focus on disruptive economy to sustain the business? So the question to Murtaza, on the supply chain, I believe that all four, except Ashan, who is on the international trading space, excluding Ashan, the other three panelists, three of y'all, has this challenge of procuring the raw material, focusing on just in time, and reducing the inventory and the cost of capital on the inventory, etc., and of course, to service to international clients in an efficient manner. Now, by looking at the Sri Lankan, I would say the economic dimension, I don't see that such raw materials could be in the downstream of the backward integrated manufacturing process. However, we have the United States of Asia next door, which is often said the United States of Asia, which is the India, is one of the major producer of most of your raw materials. Murtaza, how do you like to respond to that?
Sorry, Anton, I think I lost you there, so I would appreciate if you could just repeat the question once more.
We have the constraint on supply chain, okay? And we have the United States of Asia next door, which is India, right? I believe that you could have, in a very close proximity, you could have most of the raw materials that you would like to have to create that competitive space in the global market. Okay, so basically from a supply chain perspective, I think one of the greatest challenges that we, not only from the flexible packaging space, but from the whole entire cluster, is the fact that most of our raw materials, I would say approximately 95% plus, is not available within the country. And you take our next door neighbor, they have everything. So there's a huge void from a Sri Lankan perspective that we do not have readily available materials, especially when it comes to specialized products, which tend to be supplied maybe in not so large numbers. Now, you take a particular product that is, say, a completely sustainable pouch, for example, which is manufactured in India. Now, someone in India would be able to get that materials in a few days into their warehouses and commence production. Now, us being a supplier from Sri Lanka, we don't have access to this. So we would have to get products coming into our warehouse. We have importation, logistics. So this entire supply chain management, I think, is going to be very, very key to the success of the growth of the industry. One of the things that I look forward to, as Tisha mentioned, is collaboration within the cluster. We really need to see capital investment in the industry where we one day could aspire to having some of these materials to be purchased within Sri Lanka. And I don't see why not. We cannot, as an industry, we are able to compete. We are able to compete today with China. We are able to compete with India. And certainly be able to compete with the other regions globally as a manufacturing cluster. So with the challenge being not having the availability of these materials, which gives our next door neighbor, India, an opportunity to try and be more competitive. On the other side, with the improvements with the logistics that have been taking place globally,
I know in the last 1.5 years, there's been more trend towards localization rather than globalization, but still, it's literally having a next door neighbor who's having the product available. I'm sure if we can have legislation that can enable us to bring these materials into Sri Lanka as if it was not rather than another country, but rather than being a neighbor from another state, I think that will give the industry a tremendous opportunity to be even more competitive. And especially when it comes to this concept of sustainability, and I think Adnan also mentioned the circular economy. The entire globe is moving towards this concept of ESG compliance, which I think many companies globally have goals which are set for the year 2030. And for us to be reckoned with, we need to be compliant with these norms. And for us to be compliant, we will need to have access to these materials, especially the specialty materials, which are, I think, lacking a lot in terms of availability. So perhaps as a cluster, I think if we could look at even the legislation which enables us to get these products in more feasibly, would definitely put us in a more competitive edge on a global perspective.
Excellent, Murtaza. As all panelists have the growth mindset, so the supply chain and creating that hub is a feasibility. As we have a neighbor who is highly industrialized and highly innovative in all process that PPP cluster wants. Having said that, I would like to pose this thought and the question to Heshan. Now, you heard from all three panelists that India is becoming a vibrant global sourcing partner, not only for raw materials, but also for plant and machineries. What are your cultural shift aligning the organization alliance to this space as traditionally having some of the best German and European brands under your forte? Ishan?
And then, like you said, from the beginning, we have been agents for Heidelberg, and typically we have gone through German principles. But some of the newer brands, we fall into a cluster with India. So we fall into the same cluster as Bangladesh, Vietnam, Maldives, Sri Lanka, if you ask. There are a few cultural differences that I've seen, especially with our newest addition of Xerox into our portfolio. But these are cultural differences that can be worked on. All we have to do is get on the same page. Our Indian principals came to us. They try to understand the market in Sri Lanka. For example, Sri Lanka, the size of Sri Lanka is probably the one size of a city in India. So that is one big cultural problem that we had to make them understand. But it's all to do with communication and how you give your feedback and move forward. And I think that it's not a challenge. It's a good challenge, and we took it upon us. And I think with Xerox we have been very successful working with the Indian teams so far.
Excellent, Ishan. I think that's the right approach, an integrated approach. And then, of course, integrating the cultural dimension. Now, Tisha, over to you. As you said that you do have similar challenges when it comes to supply chain to create that global market space. To what extent India's contribution as a supplier?
Yes, Anton. Rightfully, as Mr. Murtaza and all also mentioned, and Heshan, India has been taking a key role in the past, even when in terms of machinery as well. Even some of the machines that we had bought in the past, maybe more than like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, we were able to directly, communicate with the European principals. But now most of the bigger agencies and everything is handled out of India, which makes it also sometimes a little bit in terms of pricing as well. Of course, there's the Each one is keeping their margin on while before it comes to Sri Lanka as well, rather than us directly negotiating with the principals. And in terms of even flexible, the raw materials, rightfully, as Mr. Murtaza said again, more than about 95% is directly or indirectly imported into the country in terms of films, adhesives, even what we buy locally here, sometimes the solvents, but it's still imported into the country. And during COVID, actually, we saw a major shift. We also used to buy most of the films from, even example, the polyester films and so on from China. And the OPP films, the polypropylene family-based films from Indonesia, because of their let's say, brand recognition throughout the years as being some of the best suppliers. But during COVID, there was a big shift due to the logistics, the expenses as well, because like I said, approximately imagine from $4,000 from the shipping cost to 14,000, you know, when it had to come from Indonesia because of the distance. So we were even at that point buying a small percentage from India. But during COVID, due to this huge increase in cost, we shifted now almost, I guess, 80% of the OPP films and even some of the polyester is bought from India. Because even they are also very competitive with the Chinese prices as well. Other than few products like alufoil, aluminium foil and certain things, China still has that market share. But India is also developing. They have new mills, you know, rolling out and sending quality products as well. And even from the ink manufacturing side, the company, traditionally we've been using a lot of pigments from India, some of the colors. But in the last few years, even for certain resins and other additives and so on, we've been shifting to India as well, mainly because of, you know, the price and the time factor as well. Like Mr. Murtaza mentioned, you know, before we still have to wait for sometimes in certain cases 3 months for shipment to arrive. But from India, also it's still okay, at least 1 month, 1.5 months, depending on how specialized the product is. They have actually taken over this region in terms of in the supply chain. But in terms of the cost and effectiveness, like Mr. Murtaza and Adnan also mentioned that, you know, we are competitive. We are competitive against the Chinese products and Indian products. Especially, we have to understand also that, yes, we might not have the economies of scale in terms of the raw material production being available in Sri Lanka, but our print quality is definitely much more better, I would say, in my opinion, that I've seen, and some of the people that I've worked with and spoken to, is higher than India. You know, they are playing for a market on volumes, you know, so, but our packaging and print industry, even when in terms of offset, you know, print care, JFNI, I think Krishnan was also here. I think he would know most of them are competing in the global market. And our quality and prices are very good, and minimizing this wastage and increasing our production efficiencies, operational excellence in different aspects will help us compete more and get that market share. And actually, to rather than also indirectly exporting, directly being able to export as well. And I'm sure because India is actually, there's another, how would you say, a threat, or it's already in place. A lot of some exporters are importing from India the raw material, the printed materials, the final material as well, under TEEPs. So because it's being exported out, you know, India has a big influence over Sri Lanka, but I believe that we can counter that as well and also supply back into India. Or even if the price point is not good, we can directly export out into European markets and other developed countries as well.
So Tisha, you feel that competitiveness in terms of quality derives from innovation and the technology of Sri Lanka?
Yes, actually, it's a mix of both. Because, okay, even in India, you have the best machines, you know, the German machines, some of them are using continuously. But it also depends on the people and the culture as well. You know, I believe as Sri Lankans, we also strive to be the best in what we do. And this is shown even in our print. throughout the different clusters. Like I said, even I know for a fact as well, like even Printcare and JFA and I, one of the leading the offset printers in Sri Lanka, they are catering to global brands on a daily basis, right? And that's have been one of their USPs for a long time. And they've won awards as well. And even on the flexible packaging and even on Flexo or even Gravio, we have been catering to the global brands, like 3M to Walmart, like Trader Joe's. So we are in that quality, and there is a global perception also, right? That the Sri Lankans, our print quality is much better than in India. So there are some, okay, maybe our quality might be high, but, on that price level, only we are still, fighting hard. But if we can strategize and, make advantage of the already existing perception and the actual high level of print quality that Sri Lanka has to offer among all the industries, even on corrugated, that, we are doing innovative packaging, because a lot of the corrugated industry is dependent also on the export market as well. So we should try to come together to promote this, for all our local manufacturers also to go into the global market. Because in terms of print quality, offset, Gravio or Flexo, or in the corrugated Flexo printing, we are at that high level. We are at that international level and accepted by the big global brands. So it is up to us to internally and externally to come together to, give that strategic advantage, use our strategic advantage with location and our print quality to cater and grow this the Sri Lankan print cluster.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I think you have the PPP as a global branding perception is positive, and you got to improve the supply chain to a great extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Over to Adnan. What percentage of your raw material procurement are from India? And you also mentioned about recycled fiber. Now, on the recycled fiber space, both domestic consumption in India and also China is growing at a rapid pace. So how do you find the balance and keep up this procurement supply chain of your materials from India? And also you have an operation in India as well.
Yes, and so going off of your question, what we have seen with the Indian market is, ever since they started supplies to Sri Lanka previously, before they entered the Sri Lankan market, before they started supplying raw materials to the Sri Lankan market, as Tisha said as well, we had to place orders 3, 4, 5 months in advance, because those raw materials would come from either Europe or the US or China. But now, with India being part of that supply chain, we get our raw materials within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that has been a significant advantage for the Sri Lankan market in terms of carrying stocks, and for the industry as well. In terms of our raw material imports, I would say we import about 70% of our total raw materials. Still a significant amount. It would definitely be beneficial if we can bring that down to, say, 50% or 40%, which would enable us to be more competitive in international markets. And I think Sri Lanka does have the potential to be able to manufacture raw materials, even high-end, high technology-based raw materials. I would like to also say that, yes, going on what Heshan also said, Sri Lanka is a small country. But what we need to understand is the location, the geopolitical location of Sri Lanka is a very, very strategic and significant advantage for us. We must take that opportunity to be more competitive internationally, which would definitely contribute to more jobs, and which would also contribute to the GDP growth of the country as well. An important factor to this is the support of the government as well. We don't see too much support from the government for the manufacturing sector as a whole, and I would definitely like that to change. we see a significant, we see more focus towards tourism, for example. If we can shift a small percentage of that towards supporting the manufacturing sector, I think that would also benefit the country as a whole. We moved to India in 2008. As I mentioned, the first 5 years were very challenging, but after that, we've expanded into far more advanced product lines in India, and now we have 5 factories there within the packaging space. So we are more like a packaging solution company for the Indian market. We can see while being there, while with our experience there, we can see a lot of technology-based companies moving from China to India. A big reason for that is cost reduction, also geopolitical location, because India is also based in a very strategic location. And we are the neighbors of India, so we should be taking advantage of that situation. India is the largest population in the world. They spend a lot of money on education as well. They have the best engineers, the best IT professionals. So those are all advantages that Sri Lanka should take from India and learn from India to be able to further improve the country's GDP and growth.
Great thoughts, Adnan, and arriving from what you said, convincing the policymakers, right? Convincing the policymakers is always a challenging task. That's why Sri Lanka Association of Printers has to take the lead on creating the print publishing and packaging cluster as a whole, and creating that value proposition so that it will be a major economic driver for Sri Lanka, in line with the other economic drivers that Sri Lanka is blessed with. PPP as a cluster could be a main economic driver, right? That's why we arrived at this, GDP growth versus the value of that is about quantifying factor is about 20% of the GDP is the PPP cluster as a whole, right? So that felt need has to be heard in the mindset of the policymakers, and the convincing would bring about the sort of macro dynamics and the macro level, the sort of proposals and the facilitating that process for the industry as a whole. And probably if you look at the supply chain, etc., listening to all of you, one of the major initiatives is I would say, the downstream backward integration of being the close proximity, creating the electronic world trade port, what Port Klang has, Port Klang has, some of the other ports has, right? We can create a strategic hub. You specify your requirements and you need to have it where you could access it within a close period of time, which is also a Japanese practice as just in time. So that's where it is. And then to change the horizon a bit, either I'll post this question, we are still on the Indian subcontinent and the supply chain. I could remember in 1995, when the European unification was formed, one of the conceptual idea, and it became a reality in the end, was free movements of goods, services, people, and capital. I'll repeat, free movements of goods, services, people, and capital. That means you would have a situation, highly liberalized Indian companies' penetration into Sri Lanka and vice versa in equal sense. What are your thoughts? And I would like to hear from all four of you. Are you in the same space to face the competition? Commencing, starting from Murtaza.
Hi, Anton. That's a great question. My personal view is I think it would be extremely positive.
Thank you.
To justify that, I always mention that, we need to strive ways to be more competitive. Now, if you can have movement of product in terms of raw material, whether it finished goods, human capital, and whatever other services. You're going to be empowering our country to tap into a supply chain that is at scale. Now, I'm sure Tisha will also can comment on this at a later stage. And Adnan also mentioned the whole globe is working towards this concept of going towards a circular economy, towards achieving their ESG goals. Now, in terms of packaging, I think one of the driving forces from the flexible packaging point of view is the elimination of more than single family materials. And just to give an example, you take a typical shampoo sachet, which is made up of polyester and polyethylene. Now, the new technology is basically, I would say, more or less developed today, is to replace this polyester with a product known as MDO-PE, which would make it single family. Now, nobody in Sri Lanka is manufacturing this MDO-PE, and with the current legislation in place, it's not practical to import this in terms of costs because of many tariff barriers, etc. Now, our Sri Lankan economy, I think, needs to be doing this now. It's being done in Southeast Asia already actively. It's also being introduced even in India. So if we are able to collaborate as a cluster and get open barriers for trade, we are going to be having access to these materials. That's going to empower our big consumer brands, whether it be Hemas, whether it be Unilever's or your Nestle's, to offer these products which are going to be sustainable and which the industry is heading towards. So in terms of opportunity, if we are not able to compete, it will actually be a losing point for the cluster, where these products will eventually, not only will the packaging be imported, they will import the entire sustainable finished product itself into Sri Lanka. So as you say, it works both ways. At the same time, we will have manufacturers at scale coming in offering product to our industry. And I think typically it's been a mindset to have a protection in terms of having an import tariff to prevent suppliers, I would say big suppliers, making us, with the thought of making our products and our industries not competitive. I don't believe that will be the case. I think that will empower our people to become more efficient and invest in more technology and make us competitive, not only competing against India, competing against the whole world. As I said before, I think we can compete with China, so there's no reason we cannot compete with India. It's simply a matter of opportunity. And I think having this collaboration with open barriers like the EU has done is tremendous. Just to give you an example, look at Brexit and look at inflation in the UK. It speaks for itself. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
That's why Murtaza often said, you innovate or die. And now the new sort of thinking is you integrate or die. So the integration is an important aspect. Ishan, any thoughts from you from a major machinery suppliers and consumables on the same line of free movements of goods, services, people, and capital?
Yes, and so from our side, it's a little bit different perspective. For us, how we do it is we like to work with our partners and suppliers to make sure that we support them to bring this cost-effective solution to compete with the global market. We have to understand that there are barriers that exist, and we have to work with them how to change and adapt and be competitive with these barriers. Like Murtaza said, we have to be globally aligned. For us, even in the supply of consumables or paper or whatever it is, we have to be globally aligned to make sure that we are cost effective. Maybe it could be trade tariffs that we look at from major suppliers from like China or India or wherever. It could be tariffs where we look at like machine supplies. Currently, I know offset machinery does not have a duty component. Things like that, if we can work with, it will become very helpful to our partners to take this challenge and compete in the global market?
Yeah, the concept is, thanks, Eshan. That's the right thinking and way forward, because you thought about it, a lot of restrictions, but the cultural barriers remain the same, but the economic barriers were removed. That's why you see EU standard or non-EU standards, and we will have no more a Sri Lankan SLSI standard, we will have a South Asian standard, both from a tariff and non-tariff point of view. So you've got the entire 350 million, 1.2 plus another 300 million, 1.4 billion market at your fingertip, right? From 20 million to 1.4, because India has 1.2 as well, and you have another 300 million together. And on top of that, United States of America has say 300 million, which is almost like 300 million population in India as a part of that 1.2 billion ecosystem, right? Tisha, what are your thoughts on the same light of free movements of goods, services, people, and capital, and creating, like Eshan said, removing the event one step ahead and said, let's remove the tariff and non-tariff barriers as well?
True. Yes, and no, I also believe that the free movement of goods, especially, and even people will definitely help the industry, and it already is. Some people have taken advantage of this between getting, I know that some of the factories as well, companies have Indian people working as well in terms of their expertise, or hired them. Even we have actually used Indian consultants in terms of from the ink manufacturing side, because the specialist in those the chemical manufacturing industry in India is good as well. Even I know some of the others also have used them. And even in terms of machinery and training, we have got a lot of Indians to come down and train our staff as well. Of course, we do prefer, we also have taken European consultants and trainees to trainers to come and train our staff. But there is also a big cost difference in that labor, using that labor or taking advantage of that. And even in terms of the tariffs, like Eshan and everyone mentioned as well, still in terms of machinery, there is no duty structure other than the government, the PAL, the port charges, etc. But still, if you're under TEEPs as well, these levies also are waived off. Especially when you are importing on the purpose of export oriented or re-exporting or producing products for export. And actually, so there are a lot of tariff barriers, like what Indians are taking advantage of at the moment as well, through SAFTA as well, sending in products to Sri Lanka. But we also have the ability to send the goods to India. But there has been I would say capacity issues as well, because most of us, we are also trying to, fulfill the local consumption and the requirement here. So, but I guess Adnan and all have, because they are also already based there, they have that advantage as well, and more companies should. And I know that JFNI also have few plants globally as well, which they're taking advantage of the Southeast Asian, the free trade agreements. And also on that, actually, on the sustainability side as well, like Mr. Murtaza mentioned, the GLOW and Adnan as well. So on that sustainability, circular economy, actually, I've been also working on that for a long time, because that is the future. Even currently in Europe, through CFlex, it's the circular economy for flexible packaging, the European regulations and so on and so forth. They have already, how can I say, specified, what the packaging requirements as well. They have identified packaging in all sorts should be sustainable. And in terms of flexible packaging, and I think one of the viewers had asked some question regarding, the raw materials and its biscuit packets and milk packets are sustainable or environmentally friendly. Just to answer that in this at this point as well. Yes, biscuit packets can be sustainable if because they are from the same family, OPP, CPP, or polypropylene, but it's recyclable. In Europe and in Australia and America, this kind of combination is considered recyclable. So far in Sri Lanka, not yet. So I also have been engaging with as representing the the Flexible Packaging Association as their secretary in some of the Sri Lanka's national waste policy discussions as well while they're formulating the policy mechanism. So there are advantages that we could take out of this as well. So one thing that I've also been trying to promote is to have a even a joint or a government-run recycling center, which is lacking in Sri Lanka at the moment. Only the PET industry has a high level of recycling in Sri Lanka and the corrugated for the kraft paper, but not for the other flexible packaging materials. You know, other than for polyethylene-based products, there are small industries that are doing the recycling on that holistic approach. And even on these materials, even for example, the MDO-PE, you know, we also have explored, we are working with it now, but there is that high, you know, duty cost. And because it's a very new market, India is taking advantage, you know. There's a big difference from that Indian manufactured MDO-PE and from Europe as well, you know, especially with logistics and so on and so forth. And also, I would like to add again on that. So we shouldn't only think about India, you know, at the moment. Sri Lanka, because India, as everybody knows, they are mainly on price competition as well. And if we are giving a higher product out of Sri Lanka of higher quality and higher value, you know, so example, Varna had its first international exhibition last year. So we exhibited at the Fine Foods exhibition in Australia, which is one of the largest food industry exhibitions in that region. And their main suppliers are currently from India and China as well, and from that region. But if you know, Australia comparatively is only about 5 million people more than Sri Lanka, but the economy is at a really high strength, and their purchasing power of the consumers is much higher than Sri Lankans. So even when we compared, we had actually had a really good response from all the people there who came and visited us. In terms of prices as well, we are competitive, you know, because, and in terms of, it's actually almost similar model compared to Sri Lanka. Most of in those regions, some of the companies are family-owned businesses as well. Like you take the Sri Lankan big brands as well, even CBL, Maliban, for example, Harish Chandra, these are all, even Hemas, you know, all family-owned businesses. So it's like the same mindset of the people there. And we don't have to cater to the, you know, Unilevers or Nestle's in Australia or in other countries. We have to cater to them because that's where they would like to work and get this value proposition that the entire Sri Lankan print packaging cluster can offer, and what we are doing to our customers here. And in terms of the regulation there, I've been working on since going there last year, only we realized, okay, we were getting some potential orders, but again, there is an barrier to entry in terms of duty. You know, they are importing from China duty-free flexible packaging. But if we were to export to Australia, there's a 5% duty on the flexible packaging. You know, so at the moment, in the last few months, I've been discussing and trying to get that barrier lifted, you know, working with the Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry here and the Australian Foreign Trade and Foreign Ministry there. So hopefully that can be a benefit to the entire cluster. So not only for the flexible packaging, for the other offset, and because everything comes under different HS codes. So trying to get it lifted for the entire packaging cluster, print and packaging cluster of Sri Lanka. And in terms of the government side, I know that they have only, in terms of protectionism, they had this cess and few other barriers to protect the market, but we should move forward. There has been like other indirect organizations like World Bank had given funding even 4 or 5 years ago in terms of helping companies to grow in the technology side, from machinery example, and to promote exports. You know, so even Varna, we applied for the grant, have been through the processes, and we were also able to take advantage of this grant that was given. So there are a few things that come in to Sri Lanka as well, but I know that it's not marketed well by the government as well. Even about the TEEP scheme and the other mechanisms which are there for the exporters, especially for the people who are supporting the export industry directly or indirectly. So on that sense, I guess all the associations here has to do that communication better with the government officials and even the other overseas counterparts to get these benefits to the Sri Lankan market.
Thank you, Tisha. Owing to hearing from what you said, yeah, that's the advantage of being a market which is sort of a considerable size. And when you enter a market of similar size like Australia, you obviously could create that free trade space wherein you have two big markets in the world. One is China and the other one is India, which are at war, most often at war, economic war, I would say. They're at most often competing wars. Then you have the advantage and the vacuum space for Sri Lanka to form markets of similar size, where there is also a sort of many other advantage to focus on the tariff and the advantage of the free trade. Thanks, Tisha, for that detailing sort of experience. And I would like to post this to Adnan, who already have an early mover advantage towards India, having operational with 5 factories. That's one, which is an early mover advantage, obviously. And then in addition to that, I believe that you were able to leverage your financials because of your joint venture partnership. Would you like to discuss on those lines, Adnan? And also, I believe that you are in favor of free movements of goods, services, people, and capital.
Thanks, Anton. Yes, firstly, absolutely, yes, I am in favor of free movements of goods, capital, labor, people, and services. It is very important that, like you said as well, there is a South Asian standard. Maybe it would be too much to ask for a global standard, but at least a South Asian standard for tariffs and non-tariffs, free labor, free movement, free trade agreements. For example, what we know, what we have experience of is that raw materials imported to India from Thailand are free trade. There's no duties, no charges on it. So a lot of other countries like supplying India, whereas the prices that they offer the Sri Lankan market are much more. So from that sense, that's where the TEEP scheme comes into advantage for us, because we do have that ability, but unfortunately not for the local market.
Thank you, Adnan. And also the other point on the same line, in terms of that sum up the second round of our session, and we have come to the final round, which is more on your capabilities of investments and expansion. Now, what are your thoughts? Because in a highly competitive world, unless you leverage your businesses, right? Most family-owned businesses do have a lot of constraints. I have seen even in the companies which are listed in the stock markets, they still have to have a major control because of the inheritance of family and their sort of interest. Now, if I may ask all four of you, now, as you are in the driving seat, how do you all like to leverage that financial aspects in the form of private equity, or listing any of your entities, or even forming a joint ventures to expand the business to face the global competition? Commencing from Murtaza, please.
Hi, Anton. So as we mentioned before, and I think many panelists have also spoken, there is no doubt that we need to invest very dearly and very high-end technology to keep up with the technological revolution that's taking place globally, especially working towards this ESG goals, which many industries are going to face, I would say, by 2030. So I think the industry within Sri Lanka is kind of at an inflection point right now. Yes, there is a dire need to invest in new innovation, in new technologies, but obviously we are faced with the constraints of the macro environment, which we are facing right now. So collaborating with joint ventures, private equities are always going to be options. I think even if there are traditional family businesses who have not been considering these aspects in the past, perhaps I think it's time to have discussions on these topics, because simply, if my personal view is unless you are going to invest and keep up with this technological demand that's taking place from a global perspective, I don't think the industries will be able to survive. And the financial constraints within the country from the macro perspective are not conducive. I think one of the panelists was mentioning that they're seeing a lot of services coming in from India, and a lot of emphasis from the government being given to Sri Lankan services in basically in things like tourism, rather than, or a lack of focus in the manufacturing sector. So now I think this goes to say for the entire manufacturing sector of Sri Lanka, I think investment is absolutely necessary. It is necessary for us to keep us competitive, to make us compete and supply products on a global scale. And considering the financial backdrop of the macro environment that Sri Lanka is facing, I think it's imperative now that even people who have not been considering partnerships or private equity or public listings perhaps would probably need to have discussions on this today.
And you've got to have the right valuation as well. Yeah.
Well, the stock market is not the most conducive place at the moment, so
Right.
many companies are delisting. So I don't know. It's
delisting because of administrative challenges and various other compliance, I believe.
So I believe, Anton, my point is basically, I believe that the industries are at a kind of inflection point. So either we need to do it, we need to find ways to do it. If we don't do it, it's going to create a huge vacuum.
Sure. Yeah. If you're looking at the global market space, leveraging your entire investment portfolio is a key component. Thanks, Murtaza. Eshan, are you subscribed to this, or do you have any sort of urge for such initiative from your business model and the trading and global sourcing point of view?
Yes, especially when it comes to the consumable space, when it comes to paper, chemicals, things like that, is something we have been looking extensively at partnering with manufacturers, because that's something we believe that is a value add thing that we can manufacture in Sri Lanka to make the lead times less for our partners, to make the cost benefit, and also on top of that, even to add an export component to that, to bring in export revenue into Sri Lanka. And this is something very important. If we want to be a global player in the market, we have to be able to do these things. And I definitely agree with you that we have to leverage certain aspects, maybe not all aspects, but certain aspects of the company. And one of the aspects I also believe that is diversification. As Alliance, we have diversified into many areas of business in the last few years, one of which is agricultural space, is very, very key to the Sri Lankan economy. We also diversified, as you mentioned, into the car care space, not only having automobile brand under a portfolio, but also having subsidiary brands underneath that. We have brands like Autoglim from the UK, one of the best manufacturers of car care products in the world. We also diversified into the real estate space. So it's important to know where you want to diversify and where you want to leverage your company.
Thank you, Eshan. And eventually, those initiatives could fall in line with joint ventures and private equities and listing initiatives. Thanks, Eshan. Tisha, how do you feel about it, of taking your third generation business going public?
Actually, so it's on the cards. We've already discussed this with the board and everything in the last 2 years ago, and we have a plan set in motion. So, because to list as well, there are certain criteria to be met and a certain size that we should reach, in terms of market perception and everything, and total, again, the macroeconomic conditions right now not the most favorable, as Mr. Murtaza also mentioned. But it is on the cards. We've had that discussion already internally 2 years ago as well in our 10-year strategic plan. So it's on the cards, and even currently in terms of equity and funding, even last year we had an equity infusion from the existing shareholders, so private equity as well, because previously we were taking again the loans and stuff from the banking sector because the interest rates were favorable at as you know 7-8% pre-COVID and all as well. But since last 2 years with everything going on and the high interest rates, we still did most of our investments through private equity. But but in Australia, we already have that strategic partnership built up since visit last year. So we have a JV partner there for certain aspects on the logistics handling and the having the GRN, like the quality testing, the labs set up in Australia. When we do send our goods from here, they do the inbound check-in of the materials and logistics, etc. And even here in Sri Lanka, we do have some strategic partnerships with some suppliers and machine manufacturers, suppliers, etc. Because it depends. You can have those strategic partnerships at various levels, in the entire supply chain, so that you can get that benefit and understanding, keep up to date, and also pass on that to the customers as well. In terms of other foreign or private equity, also we are open to, because at the moment globally in other countries you can get funding at much less interest cost. So we are open to everything as well. And because it is key, like Mr. Murtaza said, if you're not going to keep investing on the capital equipment to keep up with the technology, we are going to lose behind. But with that high cost of capex, we cannot cater to the Sri Lankan market alone. It's not enough to recover those investments from the European machines, which are costing from 600,000 euros plus to 1 million, 1.5.
Having listened to all four of you, I strongly believe that financial leverage and structure in the form financial structure is an important aspect during your sort of tenure, which is an important aspect to sustain and grow the business. Adnan, I believe you're on the same space, as you already have, international operations with 5 factories overseas, etc.
Yes, I agree with all 3 panelists. As Murtaza mentioned about innovation, keeping up with technology, upgrading new technology, to be there, to be competitive globally is important for us. And I also agree with Eshan about the importance of diversification, looking at other areas, other industries where we can do value addition to further enhance and export more products and further support the export industry to generate more foreign income for the country. And what we have noticed recently is there's been a big change in consumption patterns as well for consumable items because of the income, because of cost of living increasing and people's income coming down. So it's about innovating, it's about changing, and looking at strategic partnerships through, as Tisha said, about strategic partnerships through private equity. As a company, we are not looking at going public at the moment, but you never know what the future has in store for us. And we do see a trend, Anton, about the e-commerce industry. So I'd like to just add a few points on e-commerce. While e-commerce is a growing trend in Sri Lanka, we are yet to see a shift in e-commerce within the packaging industry. And that the main reason for that is because the machines that produce packaging currently in Sri Lanka are more for larger volumes required by businesses. Whereas in the e-commerce space, you require packaging which is a variety of different sizes, different prints. And as of right now, we do not have the financial ability to spend that kind of money investing in these kinds of machines because of the price of these machines. And as Tisha also brought about the interest costs as well. So those are things that we are looking at the moment in terms of the future. As of right now, the packaging industry is more focused on business-to-business transactions. But however, there is going to be a shift towards more e-commerce based requirements. And I think it's important that we are all prepared for this shift.
E-commerce is your major driver for industrial packaging because of the extensive mobility, okay, and the lifestyle and work style, of course. Thanks, Adnan, on that space. And I have one more question before we open the panel to the audience. To what extent you all practice lean management skills across the board? Murtaza?
Hi, Anton.
From a talent perspective and lean management perspective.
We try to always, basically, I have been able to develop a leadership team, and it's just a handful of people from a senior leadership team. So most industries that I have seen, not only within this packaging cluster, but even outside the cluster, their teams tend to be a lot larger. But I believe that having a lean team and having a few people who are able to multitask and are able to get a greater knowledge, a great understanding of the entire operation, making the communication within each one, being able to collaborate with each one more efficient. Also, you end up having your operation running more smoothly. So this concept of having lean management to also having lean talent downstream, it goes hand in hand with your innovation as well and the technology you employ. So we are investing in state-of-the-art equipment. And what this does is basically the days where you would have, say, 6-7 people operating a production line could be handled by just a single person. So yes, technology is going to make you leaner. Your leadership team having just a handful of people who really need to understand and have the driving force and the knowledge from top end to the bottom end, definitely be a competitive advantage. And I feel it's also tremendously efficient.
Great, Murtaza. Thanks, Lord. And that's the way to go forward and is practiced globally. Eshan, any comments?
Yes, and so how we look at it is lean management is very, very important in a small market like Sri Lanka, so that we hire people that are capable of doing multiple tasks at the same time. Not only that, we also help our partners with lean manufacturing that they can reduce the costs of their overheads and costs of their products. You have to identify the strengths of your employees.
I think, excuse me, Eshan, someone needs to mute the mute. Someone needs to mute. Some disturbance there. All right, go ahead, Eshan, please. Eshan, you. Hey, Sean, can you hear?
Yeah. So I do, and also the last point I'm trying to make is that we have to identify the strengths of our employees to make sure that we drive them in the right direction so that they are able to do their jobs to the highest capacity, and that in turn helps with the number of people you have, the overhead costs, and all of that as well.
Excellent. And your digital transformation support that function and the process. Yeah,
Exactly. That is very, very important factor in all of this.
Tisha, any comments from you on the lean management process?
Yes, actually. So as I mentioned previously as well, so one key aspect that we focus on, other than, like I said, investment in capital, it's not only like machinery investment on capex and machinery, it's also on our people. So even in the last 2 years, so even with COVID going on as well, and there were so many other restraints in the market, we managed to focus within ourselves. And we started leadership training programs. Even our executive team is very small. When you take comparatively, it's 10% of the entire staff. And we have been focusing initially on them to drive lean throughout the company. First, the leadership team, all of our managers and the executives have to, be well versed in what they need to teach their juniors or subordinates. So in terms of that, in the last 2 years, we've invested heavily on our human capital development. And even right now, currently, the entire company is going through the Lean Six Sigma training program. So we've already had the initial discussions. Now they're working individually, even at the staff factory level as well, together in teams. So it's supposed to end in another 4 months, because the entire project, and even last year, there was a different course that everyone went through, mainly up till to the middle management. And then now it's following through to the entire staff. So it is very important, like even we spoke about wastage as well, and coming to this operational excellence, that is one method to be more efficient in lean, plus, being competitive globally, reducing this wastage, and how the mindsets of the people is definitely a key factor, and how we also implementing the digitalization part of it, like the Industry 4.0. We have combined it with the entire strategic plan for this 3 years currently, which is continuing from last year, in terms of getting the data from all the machines, even the old ones. We have retrofitted with them with sensors and connected to a digital platform. And now we customized our entire ERP to take that information from another third source and put it in. But the lean helps in the entire format of this, because at the end of the day, still some of the people need to enter the data, even from entering the data in the correct way, measuring the weights, everything. So we have to be lean throughout. So we are continuously working on that, and it definitely has helped in building the culture and the team and the mindsets of the leadership team to understand why we need this. This is the importance of having it to go global. Without it, you cannot go global as well.
So it makes you good to great and give you that competitive edge. Yeah. Thanks, Sean. And any comments from Adnan?
Yes, thanks, Anton. Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Lean management is very important to be more competitive globally. It's not only, as we discussed earlier in this discussion, it's not only important to invest in technology and innovation, but also important to invest in our people through training programs, through explaining to them about the products, about different areas within the industry. It's not only about working hard, but working smart as well. And I believe that all those points that were made by the other 3 panelists were very important, and it is an important factor in making our country more competitive.
Thank you, Adnan. Thanks a lot. So now we would like to hear from the audience. There are any specific questions to the most dynamic panelists that you have heard them for nearly 2 hours?
And Anton, just if I can add a few more things until someone
please.
has any questions. So one other aspect, because if there are anybody here who, on the entrepreneurial mindset, one thing that I saw while being at Blue Diamond Jewelry as one of the directors, so I just finished like 5 years there as an independent director, regarding the packaging for the jewelry industry, gems and jewelry has been, or like the raw stones have been exported out of Sri Lanka for many years, right? But there was something that was lacking, a high level packaging to suit those products, even the finished or even the raw product itself. Still the packaging for jewelry in Sri Lanka has been at that basic level, I would say, unfortunately, but there is great potential because it's a high value product as well. And the packaging should manage that. Yes, it is currently number of units or something, if you take into consideration, might be low, but that's because someone has not looked into that market in terms of packaging and how the packaging could help even improve and grow that export market of the gems in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Tisha. That's an opportunity for all of you to take the lead forward. Dylan, Peter.
Yes, Anton, I would like to ask a question and also add certain things what the association has been doing up to now with all what they were saying. Number one, which I would like to say is that the Printers Association itself has strategically positioned their people in certain places of lobbying the government. So we need information to lobby to and get the strategies of each other to be done, that data to be given to the Printers Association. The association has strategically positioned in each area. Number two is on innovation and packaging. Sri Lanka Printers Association with the Moratuwa campus have started to establish a center for multiple digital research, which is packaging design innovation. Today, you can go free of charge and get anything done of your innovative packaging from them. They will do the research, they would do innovative the packaging, and also to bring down logistical costs. So that is being done, which could be done. And number three is that we are also negotiating for the patents so that in one-stop shop that you can get your patent done at a low cost so that you can go to the world with an innovative package, which is patented, where it will have an impact. So these are little things the association's part, which has been doing and continuously doing, as well as the only weakness which we have is the information and statistics and data. This is something which we have to get, and that is what we have to support to get it. Having said that, I want to ask Heshan a question, as I have been the first customer for Xerox through digital printing, I believe, with Alliance 20 years ago, but 20 or 25 years ago. The question is about how do you develop the personnel, the skilled labor for your innovation, for your new technologies and things. Because what happens is that most of the time that we have a very big scarcity of staff, and when one person buys it, and when you go to the second machine, then there is no staff. How do you address these type of issues of getting skilled workers to the market when you are selling machinery as well with education?
Yes, Mr. Dilan, that is a very, very key component when it comes to manufacturing. Also, not Xerox is a small component of this. But if you look at Heidelberg, for example, in the offset industry, whatever offset, it's more manual labor. So what we have been doing, as you know from the association as well, is that we have to, from the grassroots level, start training people, bringing them into the industry, having seminars, having training sessions to make sure that people are educated in certain expertise in this area. Because a lot of people don't know or don't want to know that there are industries like this that require people for skilled labor. And this is, I think, very important for the association, as I'm on the committee of the association as well. So this is very important for us to look at this in detail for the future. And also we have noticed that a big brain drain has happened in the last few years of minders and people like that. And manufacturing plants are having major issues in sourcing people to do this work.
Any other questions? That we had a very detailed session for really 2 hours. I think we covered sort of an in-depth process of the organizations. Any questions from the audience before we?
I'd just like to add to Dylan's question here as well. This is something that I have done actively in my journey, and I think maybe it's a worthwhile sharing. One of the things I did was when we invested in this very high-end innovative technologies, I learned to operate the entire equipment myself. So today I'm confident enough to say that I can run individually all the equipment that is in our plant. So I've got the training from internationally, from locally, and I've also over the years developed this experience. And being part of a family business and being entrepreneurial, I think I am able to pass this knowledge down the workforce. So we are really not depending, you don't really depend on an outside party or outside services to come and train your people. Yes, I think in any industry, you will have your workers changing. And right now, as you can see, the brain drain that's taking place in the country. So I think having the capacity and the ability to do things yourself and having the knowledge and the know-how of really understanding the process and the equipment that you're running gives you a tremendous advantage. And I think it's of great value.
Thank you, Murtaza. Any other thoughts from the
Yes,
panelists?
and I have a question to Tisha and to Murtaza. Murtaza said that the print quality is better than India. I want to find out how he controls the print quality.
So in terms of print quality, obviously the ultimate decision is by your human eye. You print a product and to make sure that it's visually acceptable. And when you look at the finer details, you can physically see certain differences. Having said that, some of the technologies that we've adopted have been very, very new. Just to give you an example, I think everyone knows when you print an image from a 4-color process set, you get traditionally, especially in flexography, you get what is known as a Moya pattern, especially where some of the dots can be coming in more than the 3/4 percentage tones. So what we do is we innovate by using the digital age. We use digital hybrid screening, which visually gives you a perception of looking at the print of something like, say, when you print at 150 LPI on a physical screen, the physical appearance appears around 400 LPI. Now, this is the same technology that is used on an iPhone display, the digital hybrid screening. So how we improve print quality is by using cutting-edge technology. The ultimate driving force is your visual appearance. At the same time, we do measure colors using spectrometers. We do measure dot gain using spectrometers and keep it within our specified norms and standards. And if you can do that consistently and actively, I think you can really keep a very good print quality consistently right throughout your operation. I trust that answers your question, Peter.
Thank you. Do you also use any viscosity systems?
Of course, this is standard. I think you would not be able to put ink onto a press without a viscosity control system. With today's day and age and the level of operation that we're doing, it's basically standard. It's like driving a car without an airbag. You wouldn't do it today.
Yeah. And I guess to add to that, Mr. Peter, we are also using similar. Viscosity is a must. We've also are experimenting with in cooling systems at the same time. and also give you an example 4 years ago, how we managed to sustain this print quality and how we use technology a little bit was from Sitara. We were the first to get down this high-end software called the ink manufacturer, the formulation software, which the ink manufacturer has the main component, the full package, and one of the printers. And at Varna, we used where the Pantone, it's from Pantone as well, and X-Rite, where the the spectrophotometers are from the same company. So even to match the 3M red, 3M is a global color, to match that and to go back and forth with the US. So we managed, rather than sending physical samples, because they were in line with the technology during that time, first we were doing the discussions on the digital color card, right? The DXF file format as well, sending back and forth, initially for about 3 months, getting it right, the print, and then only from the physical ones for the final confirmation and getting their approval. And also currently using again technology, like Mr. Murtaza said, currently everything is based on the human eye of the operator and the quality team in maintaining this print quality, using other certain small, new components in printing. But one is to going digital even for the color monitoring as well. So at the moment, we are in the process of putting up the camera systems, which will auto detect the defects and colors the differentiations in the print while the press is running, and that we will be able to then take it out, correct it on the spot, and plus whatever is not correctable on the press to take it out later on in the second processing part.
And just to add, Peter, in terms of the visual camera inspection that we have an electromat system in place on all our presses, and that does a statistical inspection of 100% of the web that we print. So when we do start a job and it is acceptable in terms of colors and all the specified norms, the master is actually saved into the camera system, and then it's an ongoing inspection physically. So if there is something that pops up, which is a defect within the print, it will immediately alert saying your defect is here, this is a defect. You can either accept the defect, or you can override it, or you can stop your press and do a correction. So it would detect something ongoing. So I think that's a huge aid that we have as a tool as well.
Thank you.
I can, one more question. Having Peter and the association is meeting most of the countries on the trade gap, and we are negotiating on the trade gap for us to have a benefit on export, because we'll take, for example, a country has $1 billion trade gap, which is favorable to their country, and we are losing out, that we are trying to get a benefit of getting exports on a special tariff agreement. So we are communicating on that. Having said that, what I want to ask you a question is that all three of you is the manufacturing side. Will you be liking, as being very good marketeers of export, to work with smaller printers to subcontract and work for your export market, because there is excess capacity which you can use to do that? Is that combination a good way of going about? Murtaza or anybody who can all together.
I think the challenge is right now with the current macro environment. I think most of our conventional or the established printers are probably finding it, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but there is a difficulty in filling up your own capacity right now. Definitely, we have seen from the global recession that's being induced everywhere, and also the macro situation within Sri Lanka, we are seeing about a 20 to 30% drop in requirements. Of course, I believe that this will be temporary, but from an immediate perspective, when you are having further capacity, I cannot really see a manufacturer wanting to subcontract unless they're able to fill up their own capacity. In the event that we are full up, and not only us, anybody in any industry, it happens, I think, actively in the garment industry. Certainly, we can look at offering or extending contract obligations to third parties, but then they would need to bridge the gap of having the necessary infrastructure available to process the kind of work that we are requiring. So Do they have the right presses, the right knowledge, the right know-how to deliver what we really need? So if that gap is can be bridged, certainly there's no reason, provided we need further capacity.
Yeah, why I asked that question was that if you go for export market, the volumes are huge. So if you get a volume of that nature, and the Sri Lankan operators or skilled workers like to be entrepreneurs, they want to run on their own. So that partnership is what I was just thinking in a long term, that to be ready with that type of environment so that we can take it forward of motivating them to be partners with other big companies. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, just to, well, I can just add my comments here. I mean, if you take another company in Sri Lanka, for example, not in our industry or cluster, you take Hela Apparels. They recently listed publicly, and I know that they have invested very heavily in operations overseas, in Egypt especially. Now, they were subcontracting a lot to fill up their capacity, but now I think with the slowdown that they're seeing globally, and also by having the plant in Egypt coming into operating at scale, they have actually stopped using any subcontractors. So it's in a catch-22 situation. So, provided you have the capacity and the requirement, yes, you will subcontract, but the moment you do get that requirement, you will want to expand yourself. So once you do expand and develop your own capacity, you would not want to subcontract. At the same time, I think there are intellectual property knowledge which you may not want to share things that you're doing. So there is a barrier, but certainly a barrier that can be discussed and developed perhaps. So I don't think it's a flat out no, but it's something that can be certainly looked at on the table.
Thank you, Dylan, for those questions. As I presume there aren't any more questions. So I would like to sort of conclude the session that 4 panelists, 4 companies, Heritance of Entrepreneurs on the driving seat. Obviously, by listening to all 4, you would agree the fact that they're going to make the company from good to great, beyond doubt, extremely detailing, extremely passionate and committed towards their principles of entrepreneurship in all aspects. So having said that, Murtaza, with your innovation and empathy, best of best wishes for your forte and success to move forward. Eshan, from conventional to digital, one of his main forte to move forward and be globally competitive in terms of his sourcing initiatives. Tisha, obviously, integrating the print, publishing, and packaging cluster as a whole for the global market space. As a marketer, you are very much fascinated about this objective set by SLAP. And of course, Adnan, from a productivity enhancement and economies of scale, all those aspects are extremely encouraging. And Peter, I think we are creating a very sound PPP cluster for Sri Lanka. And I extremely fascinated and enjoyed the session talking to all 4 of you. And thank you very much. And over to you, Peter, to take the lead from here. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yes, so I will conclude this session. First of all, my apologies for not being online earlier because I had some technical difficulties trying to log in. Having said that, I'd like to say a word of thanks. As we come to an end of this insightful entrepreneur webinar, I'd like to take a moment to express my heartfelt appreciation to each and every one of you for joining us today. It has been a truly enlightening experience filled with valuable knowledge, ideas, and inspiration. Firstly, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our distinguished panel of speakers, namely Murtaza, Tisha, Eshan, and Adnan, who generously shared their expertise and insight with us. Your passion for entrepreneurship and a willingness to impart your knowledge have undoubtedly left a lasting impact on all of us. A valuable contribution have not only enriched the webinar, but also contributed to the growth and development of aspiring entrepreneurs within this Printers Association. I'd like to also sincerely thank Anton, Godfrey, and everyone behind the scene who worked tirelessly to make this event a resounding success. In closing, I acknowledge all of you to take valuable insights and lessons learned from this webinar and turn them into action. Let us continue to embrace the spirit of entrepreneurship, push boundaries, innovate in the ever-evolving world of printing. Remember that success is not achieved overnight, but through perseverance and genuine passion. What you want to do. Thank you once again for being a part of this remarkable journey. I wish you all a continuous success in your entrepreneurship endeavors and look forward to witnessing the greater accomplishments to lie ahead. Thank you and have a wonderful day.